The lovely Tanya, it is an absolute joy to see you today.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me. I think that women have acknowledged and are probably more alive than ever before to needing to do something about these issues that they see in the world. And I think that if they're given the right tools, they're then in a position to do something about it.
Welcome to Future Speak. I'm your host, Sam Eaton, and today I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to Tanya Rolfe. Tanya is the founder of SoFia. SoFia is a very different investment fund. It's funded by women for female founders. The lovely Tanya, it is an absolute joy to see you today. And I was so excited to have you on the show, particularly with our time difference at the moment with you being in Singapore. So thank you for being here. I would love to actually hand over to you to explain exactly who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here. And so I'm Tanya Rolfe, and I'm one of the co-founders at SoFia. And we are a learning and education platform for women on angel investing, sort of introduction, startups, angel investing, venture capital. And really, we're trying to address the huge gender investing gap that exists between men and women. And how I got here was through myself. I'm one of three co-founders, so we all have slightly different stories. But for me, I'm born and raised in the UK and moved to Singapore about 5 years ago. And prior to moving to Singapore, I was working within the legal industry. And there was a huge difference between men and women and the seniorities, and lots of women at the junior level and hardly any women in the senior positions. And so I came to Singapore and I had 2 small babies, and I decided I didn't want to go back into law, but I had this fire in my belly around gender inequality within the workplace. And I started to invest into startups and quickly realized that women received such little venture capital funding for their businesses. And so I then put a gender lens onto my investment thesis and just focused on women-led companies. And particularly, I enjoy investing into companies that are built for women as well. And started to invest into companies through built an angel investment network here in Singapore, and grew that organically into a venture capital fund, and then realized just how difficult it is to raise capital for a VC fund, for a new VC fund, with a thesis of investing into something that looks quite different to a traditional venture capital fund. I am a woman fund manager, which is only 2.5% of those in the world. Investing into women founders, and women founders receive about 2.5% of all venture capital dollars globally. So the gender lens was an obvious choice for me. But when I struggled with the fundraising, I turned my attention to women, because women hold a third of the world's wealth, and it's relatively untapped in terms of investment. Women are not big investors, big generalizing statement there, but women are not natural investors. And I wanted to tap into that. But what I recognized is that there was a knowledge gap for many reasons. And so started to build a business, i.e. SoFia, around empowering and educating women on to take control of their finances, their financial health and well-being. And that leads into investment. And then hopefully that leads into investing into women founders. So kind of a double-pronged approach to 2 problems that I see in the world. One being lack of venture capital funding for women, and then a lack of women investors and taking control of their financial health. So here I am. So thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that was a really long introduction.
Tanya, not at all. And I love the fact, as you know, that you've brought these 2 issues together. And that's something that is unique in the marketplace. I'm not seeing anyone do both. What trends have you seen this year when you look at both those pockets that we've just discussed?
Interesting. So it's a very unusual year for us, right? For humanity. The last 2 years have been exceptionally unusual, extraordinary. And I think that there's been, in terms of women investors, I think that there is more, I think there's more fire in the belly and more of an understanding of a need for women to mobilize their capital and direct it towards things that actually matter to them. And the reason I think that that's the case is that I think that global issues are much more at the fore than they were perhaps a few years back. Now, that's seems like an obvious statement, because as we evolve, we do get more and more alive to, say, climate change or any of the, the big global issues that we face. But I think that women, I think that COVID has really highlighted a lot of gender inequalities, because women were more affected by COVID, losing their jobs at faster rates and just having to take a lot more of the child caring responsibilities or home responsibilities. And therefore, a lot of women's careers have suffered during this time. So I think that, and climate change, obviously, is a big thing. And I think COVID as well. I mean, where I am in Asia, there's huge, big concern at the moment about the, environmental impact of COVID in this region, because we basically have put everything into plastic. And I was swimming in the ocean a couple of weeks ago here in Singapore, and a face mask, came past me, and it got me thinking, yeah, this is a big problem. We've done everything we can to avoid COVID, and here we are with big global, trash problems in our seas, and what's that doing to our fish, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that women have acknowledged and are probably more alive than ever before to needing to do something about about these issues that they see in the world. And I think that if they're given the right tools, which is where we come in at SoFia, then I believe that they're then in a position to do something about it. So that's one thing from the investor side of things. And then on the founder side, I mean, the types of businesses that have been built in the last year and probably going into 2022 has changed significantly. For me personally, I'm massively interested in female health, not least because I'm a woman, but it's just women are 51% of the population, and I'm seeing huge amounts of a shift instead of traditional investors seeing it as something that's not important, actually seeing probably the financial opportunity of investing into women's health, but femtech and medtech as a sector, definitely where women's health is concerned, is definitely at the fore of a lot of investments that I'm seeing at the moment, and where I see a lot of investors are moving towards. And as well as climate change, a lot of impact investment. I've seen a massive change when it comes to impact investing. So when I started maybe 5 years ago, 2017 or 18, investing, impact investing had a real stigma attached to it. It was very much around, oh, you're not going to make any money, but you might save the planet for an extra 5 minutes, but you're not going to make any money. And that has just changed drastically in the last 5 years. I mean, who knows if it's enough, right? I think the jury's out on that one, whether we're going to get our act together for this planet or not. But I see so many funds focusing on this, creating sub funds, spinning out, smaller funds to support the climate change, for example, is a big thing in this region at the moment. And so I think that impact investing as a whole is increased. And for me, I've specifically noticed health tech, and specifically female health, as a huge trend.
And that's really interesting. You mentioned there the regional aspect of it, particularly where you are now in terms of the climate change element. We see it through the luxury of a television, right? We're not experiencing so much of that firsthand here. Do you see different trends in different regions?
That's really, I imagine the answer to that is yes. I I'm probably not the best person to answer that, just because I've really only focused on investing since I've been in Asia. What I can tell you is that, and clearly I have a lot of investor friends in Europe and the US, and I can see we deal share a lot, and I see a lot of, so I can see what they're interested in. But I think that by and large, it's fairly similar. I think what will differ is the pace. So I think that we're somewhat behind in Asia in terms of our thinking. And I don't think that we're quite at the place that Europe is in, for example, when it comes to, recycling, impact investing as a whole. Like, I think that, when I think specifically about my Gender Lens fund and some of the investors that institutional investors that I went to in Southeast Asia for investment, it was just a stretch too far for them to get their head around that a fund specifically for women could work. Whereas I think that conversation in Europe, it would be very different, this year when I was having those conversations. But, and equally speaking, I think maybe if I rolled the clock forward 3 years, that conversation would be quite easy in Asia. So I think regions are just at slightly different paces. US and Europe are probably, the leaders in many of the, probably pioneers for most of the sectors. And then we kind of play catch up a little bit.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you see the different, I guess, forms of education and how people are educated and their train of thought behind women investing in women. And certainly from our perspective and in our region, it's something that feels to me is something that's flourishing. Within the communities that are maybe slightly more reserved, but that there's an opportunity for these investors to be able to also support founders and really make a difference. How are you able to reach them, or what can people be doing to help you to get that message across?
That, Sam, is $1 million question because if I knew the answer to that, I would be all over it here in Asia. And I think that what I have learned in the last year is that it's really hard to go in and do a huge shift, and these things take time. So even Europe, which I think is probably, as I mentioned, I think it's at the fore of, but let's talk specifically about gender equality. And I think they probably are on environmental issues as well, but specifically on gender equality, that didn't happen overnight. And it's still got a long, long way to go. But I think that in Asia, it's very much, in my view, it's very much we will catch up slowly over time once we see it working in the West or in another region. So I've tried many, many different tactics. I think that the most compelling of stories is, or reasons to back women entrepreneurs is the financials. And I think that sometimes we forget that. We talk about we should be equal access, equal opportunity, and, we should do the right thing and be politically correct and X, Y, and Z. And yes, we should be all of those things, but let's not actually forget the financial opportunity of investing into women founders, for example. And there's a myriad of data, there's so much data out there that tells us that actually just makes financial sense. And I think if you put that front and center of most things, I think even the most old-fashioned traditional of investors is hard to turn and shy away from.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Tanya, I have a really big question for you. If you were marooned on an island and you had to take one thing with you, what would you take?
Okay, I got it straight away. I got it. Something to play music on.
Fantastic. I love that. That is absolutely brilliant.
Am I supposed to say a book or something intellectual?
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah,
I get
I
that
probably
too.
should have said that. Yeah, and a book.
Fantastic, fantastic. And in terms of the future of Sophia and what you're most excited about, how do you see it in 5 years' time? Where would you like it to be?
I'm so excited for this. I think that for me, Sophia is around bringing, the heart of Sophia. And this sounds a bit corny, so forgive me, but at the heart of Sophia, we have to build to make Sophia successful. It all has to it all relies on a successful, thriving, communicative community of women. And I think that that's wholly possible because, from working with women specifically for the last 5-6 years, is I see the need and the want to be surrounded by other women in the same position as you, women that look like you, women that can learn with you, women that can invest with you, whatever that is, women that are launching businesses at the same time as you, whatever that is, community and building that tribe around you is so important to women. And so I think for me, the thing that will really make Sophia a success is if we are able to build that community and foster that environment where it's inclusive, it's communicative, and it's always there, and it's supportive, and it's educational. And it helps take someone from, I don't have any knowledge of investing, I don't know where to start, to actually, I've got $100,000, pounds, whatever it is. I'm going to start putting that to work, and I'm going to support businesses that are led by women that are building healthcare businesses or whatever that, that particular interest is. Taking someone, we're going to start with one investor, one woman, at a time, and taking that one woman from, zero to investing is going to be, our absolute tantamount to our success. It is going to show our success, and that's what's going to make us, successful. But I feel it in my bones that this is the right time. And it's the right model. And I think that women really do want and need something like Sophia. And I think that it has really global, it's universal, it's as long as everyone's English speaking, it's universal business, and the things you're learning can be applied in whatever country you're in, English speaking. And I think that is going to be, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
Tanya, I'm also equally excited, and I just cannot wait to see how the company progresses, the difference it's going to make. And I know you're a busy lady, so I want to thank you again for coming on today. It's always such a joy to see you. And I will see you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've really enjoyed chatting to you as always. Definitely see you soon. I'll be in London very soon.